this is such a unique piece. I love that you call it a musical pantomime. There's this stage that is just full of all these prompts, and there are masks and costumes and stage props, and the title suggests, to me at least, that all of these things in one way or another act like a mirror, and that all these mirrors are funneling Abbie inwards until that lament at the end. And it's so beautiful because the pantomime really creates this dramatic space where when the trombone comes out, it feels like it is Abbie's voice and like it is speaking her feelings. And part of what I find really interesting is this rather unusual performance technique where during the speaking there's a kind of a muffling of the sound sometimes, not with a mute or a plunger, but sort of muffled from within. And in the theatrical context in which it occurs, it seemed to me to really speak to this interior journey that we're on. So I was wondering if you all could speak to how the solo at the end connects to the whole. I mean, maybe I'm reading it too linearly. Um, what do you all think?
I don't think so. Yeah, the muffled effect is, is basically pulling out the tuning slide of the F valve on the trombone, and so it shoots out the other end, and that makes it softer. But it's of course just softer because it's coming out of a very short tube, and so it's kind of in lieu of a mute, but it's so easy with that effect to get kind of a weeping sound, kind of a keening sound, and I think, yeah, I mean that the piece, I think it's the lament is really the center of the piece, the real crux of the piece, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, well, first off, I think your description is the best description I've ever heard of the work. I think you should definitely include that in the introductory video, and I hope we can transcribe it because we could put that to use.
So, you're welcome. You're welcome to use it however you like.
Yeah, it's true. We follow this basic principle. It was formulated by Sartre in his theoretical writings about theater, that a lot of theater, especially monologues, are created by people pulling something out of a bag, and then that new object becomes a frame of reference for further dialogue. And so we have that box at the back where Abbie goes back and pulls out masks and clothing and a bottle of pills, and then we have objects on the tabletop that she also interacts with. So it's exactly right what you said. These objects are like mirrors that define her identity. And it follows into that larger philosophical and metaphysical, metaphorical meanings that in so many respects, the world is a reflection of our own mind. And so that's part of it. On the most literal social level, it's about a woman trapped in a domestic role, even though she wants to be an artist. And she's trying to break out and find that artistic identity, but is not finding acceptance for it. And especially, in the 80s, later 80s, when we wrote the piece, that was still a very relevant theme. Things are a lot better now, but back then, a lot of feminist thought was just oriented toward the idea that women did not even have as much as a language that they could actually speak, because even the language was deeply influenced by patriarchy. Mm-hmm. So, that's something of the background of the piece. Abbie had spent a good deal of time studying mask work and had taken a lot of workshops about using masks. And we had learned a lot of things about lighting masks and how to make them come to life by moving them in the light. And she had taken pantomime classes and dance classes, all part of this lifelong work that we've had of trying to create an entirely new genre that requires an entirely new kind of performer.
Can you all speak briefly to the collaborative process and how you build these things? These I don't want to say things. How you build these unusual musical creations?
I suppose the trigger was, my experiences in the Munich Philharmonic of egregious gender discrimination kind of brought some of the demons and darkness out of us for us to study and to make music out of, and sort of form from the discrimination, from the pain, in a sense, to create art out of it as a way of processing it. Just as a general statement.
Another part of it is, when I first started this, we thought, Abbie couldn't sing, and we have very complex vocal parts in our piece for singer. And I even tried working with a singer, but the demands of this kind of complete integration of theater and music and text, it just takes a kind of dedication that few people would have. And so I just turned to the person that I had at hand who was willing to go along on this incredible journey that's very difficult. And as it turns out, Abbie was very good at it. And it allowed for us to express feelings and troubles and thoughts from the difficult circumstances we were having because of Abbie's situation in the Munich Philharmonic. So it was just very natural for us to collaborate. We needed to create a new kind of performer, and about the only person that's going to spend 40 years doing that with you is your spouse, So
yeah, that's true.
So that's...
And there's even a bit of the root of what we do at UNM, because my very first lesson with Carl Hinterbichler, he played a recording of the Barrios Sequenza.
Right.
And I'd never heard anything like it. And I said, I want to play that piece. Carl said, well, okay, but you have to learn how to play the trombone first.
Good advice. That was good advice.
Yeah, the theatrical elements were kind of like that seed. The theatrical elements in the Barrios Sequenza 5
Yes.
were a seed. But even at UNM, as an undergraduate, I had already developed a strong interest in opera. I had taken a opera course with Dean McCrae. His name was Donald Dean McCrae, I believe. He was also an assistant dean of the fine arts. And I took a graduate level opera course with him. And the ideas I got out of that course are with me to this day. It's the consummate art form. It combines the visual elements, the theatrical elements, the musical elements, literary elements, and today videographic elements. And we really wanted to work with all those genres and try to bring them into a unified whole, a real Gesamtkunst, even much farther than Wagner took it.
Right.
So those were all our motives and why we had to spend 40 years working on this. It's very complicated.
Well, the results are beautiful, and thank you for sharing them with us. Appreciate it.